Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And today, I want to shine a little bit of light and give some props to the underrated players who might be more important than 49ers fans realize. And of course, stick around until later in the show because soon, the 49ers might have too many wide receivers. Hard to believe, I know. But before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. So on Wednesday, we got a pretty full injury report from practice. Lots of 49ers are dealing with minor day-to-day injuries right now. And that includes Ricky Pearsall, who did not practice Wednesday with what he called knee soreness. Ricky did also say, to calm all the viewers at home, he did say that he expects to be back at practice this week and that he is feeling good enough to play on Sunday. So nice. Big deep breath, nice sigh of relief regarding Ricky Pearsall's health. Juwan Jennings and CJ West both missed practice, but each of them will still have a chance to play in week 4. Shanahan made it sound like Juwan in particular has a pretty good chance to be active. And of course, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, Renardo Green, Connor Colby, and Deommodore Lenoir were all practicing, but limited. Lenoir is listed with an illness. He should be all right, just, getting sick. The big story here to me with the practice report is both quarterbacks being limited. On Wednesday, Purdy and Jones split first-team reps with each other, as well as with third-string option Adrian Martinez. Now, that's a little worrying, I'll admit, but this does seem like a precautionary thing. Brock has now been limited for 4 practices in a row, and you'd have to think that he's pretty close to being all the way back. And Mac played through his injury on Sunday. That one seems to be kind of more of a pain tolerance thing. I'm not officially reporting anything, right? This is not official reporting. This is just speculation from me. But I really think that Mac's injury is not going to limit him from being active on game day. The Jaguars have one of the better defenses in the NFL so far this year, and one of the better secondaries in particular. Guys like Tyson Campbell, Travis Hunter obviously playing some corner, Jordan Lewis is back there, and of course the front seven's got some guys too. They've got Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. Former 49er Eric Armstead is on the D-line there. Definitely a pretty scary group, at least so far this year. So one of these 49er quarterbacks is going to have to get healthy quick. We did also see Demarcus Robinson return to practice after his suspension ended, and having Robinson back is so huge for this team. We've seen how beat up the receiving core is over the first 3 weeks, and having a guy who is so solid and has been so dependable all offseason long, it's going to really go a long way. I said it when he was signed, Robinson is the perfect glue guy in this Shanahan offense. I really believe you can put him anywhere. He can run the entire route tree. He's got strong hands and he'll block. Now, Robinson's not an alpha guy, right? He's not going to be a Puka Nacua or a Ricky Pearsall even. He's clearly the number 2 guy behind Pearsall and will probably actually be the number 3 behind Juwan Jennings if Jennings does play on Sunday. But Robinson is incredibly dependable, and he had a really good preseason. I'm excited to see him make his debut this week, and I really hope he gets into the end zone. Do you think that Brock comes back and gets to start this week? Or will it be Mac Jones for the 3rd game in a row? Or will we see the UFL MVP, Adrian Martinez? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, for this next segment, I wanted to shout out 3 49ers who have flown under the radar and really done their job at a high level this year without much media attention. These guys, they haven't gotten nearly enough love here on the channel, and whether they are starters or rotation pieces or role players, they are contributing to wins so far this season. And the first one, in my opinion, is the most underrated player on the entire team. It's Colton McKivitz. Now, I get it, right? McKivitz has had a long, long road to the starting job. He was genuinely not good at all early in his NFL career, but you got to give him credit. He improved his game year after year, and he finally earned the starting job when Mike McGlinchey left. Now, I still remember the panic that 49ers fans had when McGlinchey went quote-unquote unreplaced. And to be fair, McKivitz did struggle early, but he was quite solid last year. Honestly, one of the bright spots of the team. And now he's playing like an above-average right tackle. I'd say he's probably in the top 15 right tackles in the NFL. I think that's very fair. He's a big guy. He's 6'6", 300 pounds, and he's a really nice puller and mover. He had a highlight pancake block on that nice Brian Robinson Jr. run last week. Made it 20 yards downfield and just annihilated the Cardinals safety. It was a sweet play. And while McKivitz is not the best pass protector in the world, he is much better than he used to be. And it's to the point now where I think McKivitz is the second best offensive lineman on this team. He's better than Dominic Pooney and better than Jake Brendel and better than Connor Colby at this point in his career. And I think he's getting close to unseating Trent Williams. I won't go all the way there yet, but he's getting there. And that's a big reason why McKivitz got his extension earlier this year, right? He's clearly valuable to the team. John Lynch realized that, and he said, you know what, let's keep this guy around long term. So shout out Colton McKivitz. We see you, and I'm glad to have you as a 49er. Now, next up on my list of most underrated 49ers, I've got Yetur Gross-Matos, the edge rusher. YGM has sort of been like a forgotten man this year. He was overpaid last offseason as a member of the disaster free agent class of 2024. He joined the Niners along with Leonard Floyd and Malik Collins, both of whom are now gone from the defensive line. YGM was a replacement level rusher last year. He had one phenomenal game with 3 sacks against the Bears, but other than that, he had very little impact last year. And this season, he was dealing with a knee injury for the entire offseason program. I mean, he just wasn't a part of training camp at all. It was to the point where I said on this show that he was in danger of losing his roster spot if he couldn't get healthy. But fortunately for him, and fortunately for the 49ers, YGM was able to get back on the field when week 1 came around. And he's been one of the more efficient pass rushers in the NFL this season so far. The first 2 weeks of the year, you'd really only see him when the Niners would run their NASCAR package. If you don't know, the NASCAR package is kind of the slang term for a defensive formation where there are no defensive tackles on the field, but instead 4 defensive ends line up next to each other across the defensive line. That package for the Niners usually has Mykel Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos on the inside, lining up at defensive tackle, with Bryce Huff and Sam Aquanu on the outside. And YGM has been pretty effective in that role, rushing over the guards, causing some havoc as an athletic inside threat. He did also play some snaps on the edge in week 3 after Nick Bosa went down, and we'll see if he transitions into a more traditional edge rusher role going forward. But so far, he's kind of been this curveball that Saleh can throw at opposing offenses, and he's been pretty solid in that role so far this year. So shout out to YGM. Hope he can keep up that pass rush success. And one more underrated player now, it's the Sam linebacker, Luke Gifford. Gifford was a free agent signing this spring and one that went pretty under the radar. A lot of people assumed he would just be a special teams guy. But linebacker was a position that was undergoing a lot of changes last year. Dre Greenlaw left for the Broncos, Devondre Campbell was banished to the shadow realm, and all eyes were on D. Winters, expecting him to take a step up and earn that starting job. And in April, there was plenty of interest in the rookie linebackers. Guys like Carson Sweshinger from UCLA, Jahad Campbell from Alabama, Pooh Paul from Ole Miss. All of those guys got a lot of love from 49ers fans in the draft process. But it was the 3rd round pick, Nick Martin, who joined the team. And the early expectation for Martin was that he would play that strong side linebacker role, sometimes called the Sam linebacker. But that's not really his best fit. He is well built, but he's a smaller guy, so he's best suited for the weak side, aka the will linebacker spot. Now that's where D. Winters plays, so of course Martin isn't getting much playtime so far this year. But the Sam linebacker spot, while it isn't the biggest role in the solid defense, was up for grabs because it was clear that that's not really Nick Martin's game. And so Luke Gifford got in there and took the spot for himself. It became very clear very quickly that Luke Gifford was going to be the Sam linebacker. Even early on in camp, you could see that he was a great communicator and an extremely smart and reliable player. He's been a special teams player primarily for his entire career, and he is contributing on that end as well, but nobody, including me, expected Gifford to be a key role player for the defense. He is a really nice run defender. He will fill his gap over and over and over again. And that's important when you're the Sam linebacker, because usually if you're facing passing downs, you're not on the field. Usually you get subbed out for the nickel cornerback. So when the Sam linebacker's on the field, it's in these big personnels that often lead to run plays. So having a good run defender there is crucial. The best way to describe Luke Gifford to me is that he is always where he's supposed to be when he is supposed to be there. And in a defense with so many young guys, that goes a long way. So Luke Gifford, shout out to you. Colton McKivitz, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Luke Gifford. Which of these guys is the most underrated to you? And who's the most underrated 49er so far this year? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, folks, I want to talk about the wide receiver room. This was obviously a huge topic of discussion over the summer when Jauan Jennings was holding out and Demarcus Robinson was waiting for his suspension. There were a lot of question marks. The Niners obviously went out and signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Kendrick Bourne in the first 2 weeks of the season, and they traded for Sky Moore at the roster cut-down deadline. It is really wild to think about because at this point, it still feels like the Niners had no receivers besides Ricky Pearsall out there in week 3. But I do think they might have a bit of a conundrum on their hands soon at receiver. Because at some point, Brandon Ayuk is going to return from injury. He is being paid $30 million per year. He's a part of the plan going forward. There's no way around that. And Ricky Pearsall has been one of the best players on the entire team so far. So those are your top two, right? Ayuk and Pearsall. Now, Jauan Jennings is easily the most talented, most productive, and arguably the most experienced of all those guys left. So Jauan is going to be involved. You just paid Demarcus Robinson hit this offseason. He's on a 2-year deal, so that is now 4 guys. And then it starts to get pretty complicated. Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing were both late 4th-round picks in back-to-back years, and neither have been healthy really at all this season. Cowing, of course, was the starting punt returner last year, and Watkins was one of the bigger standouts in training camp this summer. They've both shown a little bit, but neither guy can be relied on at this point, especially playing offense. You know, based on age and draft capital, they're probably your 5th and 6th guys, though. And then, after that, you've got the trio of Kendrick Bourne, MVS, and Sky Moore, the preseason additions. These guys are being forced to play right now, but they're likely the 7th, 8th, and 9th receivers on your depth chart if everyone is healthy. And that doesn't even include Russell Gage and Malik Turner, who have each been active on game day this year. Now, this is wild, right? You're playing your 11th string wide receiver. Malik Turner was active in week 3. He is your 11th string wide receiver. That's unreal that the Niners have been that beat up at wide receiver. But another takeaway, the bigger takeaway for me with this whole wide receiver situation is this. If the wide receivers ever get healthy, you might have a real problem keeping all of these players on the roster. Both Ayuk and Watkins are supposed to return and really play this year. So in that case, you'd be carrying 8 wide receivers. That is just too many. Soon you're going to have to start cutting guys. And I think it'll probably be MVS and Bourne first because you can't cut your starting returner. And unfortunately, I think this logjam kind of indicates that Jacob Cowing is going to be on IR the entire year. The 49ers did carry Jacob Cowing through the roster cutdown before putting him on IR, which is a notable move because it keeps his return flexible. They now do not have to bring him back, but they still could if they wanted to. And honestly, I'm just not sure that they will. But of course, this conundrum is all assuming that the guys will be healthy all at the same time, which, as we all know, is pretty unlikely considering the way the year has been going so far. So what do you think? Will the 49ers be able to keep all these different wide receivers on roster? Are they going to have to let somebody go? Who do you think they should let go first? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And now to finish the show, I just want to go over a couple things that give me some real optimism for the rest of this season. It's time to be positive on the show. Despite all the injuries, the 49ers are still 3-0, and that does not happen by accident. The 49ers defense is top 3 in the NFL in points allowed through the first 3 weeks of the season. I believe only the Packers and the Seahawks have fewer points allowed, so go Niners. Also, the special teams, they've gotten better every single week. The 49ers are now a league average special teams unit. They are 17th in the NFL in EPA per play on special teams. We did it. Because that's all I can ask for, right? Just average special teams play. If the special teams finish the year ranked 17th, I won't complain once about them. I promise. I just want league average, please, for the love of God. Also, another thing to be optimistic about is the 49ers are competitive in every single game they've played so far, and they've been able to grit out some ugly wins. And that is all despite some very real detractors. There's obviously injuries. We talked about that extensively. But the 49ers are also the only team in the NFL to have 0 rushing touchdowns on the season. That is really, really odd for a 3-0 team to have 0 rushing touchdowns through those first 3 weeks, especially when you've got Christian McCaffrey on your team. It's odd. They don't even have a QB sneak for a touchdown. And the defense, for as good as the defense has been, they are last in the NFL in interceptions with 0. Think about how insane that is. The 49ers are 3-0, undefeated, despite forcing no interceptions, scoring no touchdowns on the ground, having to play their backup quarterback, tight end, safety, wide receivers, and edge rushers. And the Niners, speaking of, they officially dipped into a negative turnover differential in week 3, now sitting at -1 on the year. It is just so hard to win games that way. I mean, it is hard to win games with a negative turnover differential on its own, not even factoring in all the injuries and the lack of rushing success, right? But the Niners did it. They have done it. And if they're able to fix some of these areas, then the team could actually be, I think, quite good. Imagine the 49ers keep playing the way they have been, but you start to see Christian McCaffrey get in the end zone on the ground. Maybe it's a long touchdown run, like, back in the 2023 days. Or maybe it's just a successful red zone run play. Amazing. Now imagine the secondary and the back 7 start to intercept some passes. Imagine that Cardinals game, but if Fred Warner was able to hold on to that interception, or if Renardo Green was able to get an interception. That game looks way different. If either of those things happen, if you get even 1 interception, that game looks way different, right? These games, they start to get easier and easier to win if the 49ers can fix those issues. Now, that's obviously easier said than done, right? But the point is, the Niners are undefeated, and there is still plenty of room to improve. And that's all going to start in week 4 against Trevor Lawrence and a very scary Jaguars defense. So that is it for this episode, folks. Do you think the Niners will improve those weaknesses? When will the defense get their first interception? And who will score the first rushing touchdown? Let me know down below. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.